President Biden will be in Hollywood this weekend for a star-studded fundraiser expected to attend President Obama, George Clooney, Julia Roberts, to name a few. So here's the question. Hollywood stars coming out to support President Biden. Does that move anybody who's on the fence to vote for him or to come out and vote? Or could it actually hurt in some way? Or is all of this just a fundraiser?
I have a thing about this that I've been screaming from the low rooftops for all.
Okay, make it a big rooftop.
Which is that I don't think people listen to celebrities and who to vote for, but I think, except if you're Taylor Swift, in which case you listen to everybody. Fantastic. But I do think that they will listen to celebrities about issues. I think if a celebrity goes to a state and says, voting rights are really important to me here, clean water is really important to me here, no oil drilling is really important to me here, then I think people listen to celebrities. In a place that's their home state that they're connected to, like when Charles Barkley went to Alabama, when Judge Roy Moore was running, and Charles Barkley went there and said, do not be a low-information voter. You deserve more than this. He had an impact. I think, sorry.
I was going to say, I think the other big thing is, the biggest risk to my mind in November is people not voting at all. And lots of really disaffected, particularly Gen Z, millennials, who say that we just don't feel excited about this. And I think what Taylor Swift is doing right now with her Get Out the Vote campaign, all of her appeals, is actually having an effect. You can see that in terms of people signing up. And so right now, what I think is more important in some ways, what Hollywood does, or at least some of the celebrities do, is just tell people to get to the polls.
I noticed you noticed Gen Z.
Oh, yeah.
I did, too. I was like, oh, my goodness. The sophisticado is here.
When Jay-Z plays in London, they're like, Jay-Z did. We love you.
Exactly. Are you a Gen Z then, or Gen Z?
I'm a millennial. Squarely I'm a millennial.
What do you think about this?
I think that I agree that on issues it is important. I don't think that many people. I think that also celebrities tend to try to play the field a little bit, not as much as business leaders, but they do want to be semi-nonpartisan. They'll go out for Democratic fundraisers. They'll say, go out and vote, register to vote, without telling people specifically who to vote for. I think that the money, I think that the people know, I do think that the money being raised is more important in this case, especially since right now the Biden campaign Democrats do have a fundraising lead over Republicans, but given the haul that came in right after Trump's conviction, that's something that
they want. Let me be clear.
Is wild.
But it's also most likely designed and timed. Donald Trump needed a really positive headline after the conviction, and we'd be fools to think that that wasn't orchestrated. That the next day he could say, "And look what I just."
Oh, absolutely. They had that fundraising email ready to go the second the verdict dropped. It's part of their fundraising strategy to be like, look at how aggrieved I am. Look at how much I am being persecuted. But I think that the fundraiser in Hollywood is important to help keep that going, because I think that the amount of money being spent right now for so many low information voters out there, it is why you look at the polls and see how many people are really engaged and paying attention right now. The only way beyond, celebrities saying go out and get to the polls to engage, get in front of them, is to spend ad dollars right now and to inform them about what is at stake.
And you need those dollars for down ballot races.
Exactly.
Because we know on the Republican side, it's not going to go there, right? Yeah. Laura Trump already said, yep, we're keeping the money. But can we just talk about this hypocrisy? What was it, 2 months ago, when President Biden had the massive fundraiser right across the street at Radio City, and Republicans went after it. The elites, it cost this much money, it's disgusting, it's revolting. Fast forward, they're throwing fundraisers for him in Silicon Valley at 50 grand a clip. They're throwing parties in Palm Beach.
They threw a retaliation fundraiser. He was like, I'm going to have it. It's going to be twice as big. It's going to be huge. You'll see. It's going to be enormous.
But how do Republicans
raising fundraisers in London,
But how do they balance the two that they will use this weekend and say, look at Joe Biden with Hollywood elite, disgusting. He's not a real man. He's not standing for America. When they're doing the exact same thing with just a different flavor of rich people.
That's such an interesting question, because it presupposes that Republicans care about hypocrisy, which I don't think exists anymore, especially when you look at all the people who've come back to Trump. You had mentioned earlier the big meeting that Trump had on the Hill on Wednesday. He came to Congress and everybody fell in line, even Mitch McConnell.
Who hates him.
They were all there. And so I think that hypocrisy is no longer an issue for the party, but something else is going on. And it's, if you've read Mitt Romney's book, if you talk to Republicans, a lot of them will say it's fear. They don't have a security task. They don't have security. And they understand that Donald Trump's supporters are extremely ardent, but also somewhat violent.
Yes.
As we saw on January 6th, the very event that they're trying to erase. And so there's a lot at stake that's not just supporting Donald Trump for all of these
You
politicians.
saw it with Lindsey Graham.
Yep.
He spoke out against Donald Trump on January 6th. That night, I'm done. The next day, he was at Reagan National Airport flying to South Carolina and got all but physically attacked by Trump supporters. A minute later, he is at Mar-a-Lago saying, "You've got a perfect handicap, sir."
So can we give another shout out to Liz Cheney?
Yeah.
Always.
She
Always.
is one of the few people who has absolutely been totally consistent all the way through, and boy, has it cost her.
It has. I want to talk about this, though, because celebrities may be coming out for President Biden, but you know who's not? Studios. So there's this movie that's coming out about Donald Trump, The Apprentice, Gabe Sherman, and it's already gotten amazing reviews, but there's a really good chance people don't get to see it. Studios are shying away. They do not want to buy this thing. They don't want to put it out there. What does that say about where we are as a country? Is that not showing that business leaders don't want to get off sides with the next potential president? That feels very Russian of us.
Yes, it certainly does, but there's actually a really big shift right now in the whole movie business away from actually having distribution for controversial documentaries and controversial films. So this comes at the end of a big trend we're seeing, which is really scary. And there have been great movies about Russia, about China, about Middle East, which have not been able to be distributed either. So the fact they're running shy of this one is part of a pattern about control.
Absolutely, and that is a problem. And then there's the fear that we've already discussed around politicians, that we've talked about in terms of business leaders. Do you want to get on the wrong side of Donald Trump before
But this is
November?
my point. Doesn't that feel like a mini Russia?
And there is a world in which the election comes and goes, and if Donald Trump were to lose, that the movie would get distribution, because that's the balance. Are we going to be rewarded by Donald Trump because he'll give us all of the business perks we want, or will we be punished by Donald Trump because he actually doesn't believe in the rule of law that allows for business people to succeed? And this is another example of it. Let's see what happens after November.
Okay.